Okay, so I am going to be talking about baffles. And baffle right here, this is my 2020 Grizzly 700. And this is my old 2007 Grizzly 700. And that baffle is right here. And so one of the things is there's two things that I want to change about my baffle. One is I want it to breathe a little bit better, and then the second is I've noticed on some quads Yamahas point them down here, and then the exhaust blows down, hits the ground here, and creates a cloud of dust. And it's worse when you're even going. Other brands come straight out and just point it straight out, where it creates less dust. And so I want to be able to create less dust and have it not pointed down so much, but at the same time, as the baffle is kind of behind this plastic, I can't have it go straight out where it could melt it into this plastic here a little bit. So it's still going to have to be bent down just a little bit, but hopefully not as much as this. And so the other thing I noticed was the size of the baffle. This guy here is very small. And so with the baffles, there's bolts here. So I'm going to go ahead and take these bolts off. And I pre-took them off. And so I'll go ahead and just remove it here. And the baffle just slides out. And that's what the baffle looks like. Now, one thing that I noticed was this one looked very small. And so, although these are both 700s, if I compare my 2020 baffle with my 2007 baffle, you can see how much smaller that pipe is. And it is considerably smaller than the 2007. I'm assuming they're doing that for emissions, but we're going to do a little bit of modification to this and see what happens. The other thing that I do want to try to maintain is how quiet they are. I like them because they are quiet. Driving through campgrounds and on the trails and so forth, the baffles do make them quiet. I don't mind a little bit of noise, but let me start it up here and we can see how loud they are. So I'll start up the 2007. It's not too bad. It's not too loud. And let me see if I can start up this guy. Oh. Not too bad. That's a manageable noise. Probably very similar to the 2007. But you pull this out, it's very loud. Even more so when you give it gas. So I am going to try to make it so it's not that loud. So what my plan is have this extra piece of metal. This is from a DirecTV mount that has a nice bend in it right here that I think I can use to replace this section right here. And I am going to go in there and grind off these welds there, that weld there, and then we're going to see if this thing comes out. But my plan is to come in here and drill this out bigger, remove this material, and then add that on there so that it is a much larger area that can have that exhaust go through. So I went ahead and removed those welds, and this didn't come out. So I went ahead and cut that thing off, and then needed to see what was still holding it in, so I zipped off this top here, and you can see that's what it looks like inside the baffle. And then found out that this piece here is actually welded to that piece down to right about in there. So at this point I've kind of just destroyed the whole thing, so I don't have much to lose. I'm going to go ahead and start hacking this, or continue hacking it, and see what happens once I get this thing out. Okay, so I was able to open this guy up. So this is what the baffle looks like. Comes in there. So it's a little bit of a labyrinth. It goes through there. So like I said, pretty much this is garbage now, so I don't know. I'll take a look at it and see if it's something I can salvage. If not, we'll throw it in the garbage. We'll see. Okay, here's all the parts, and got everything out. Cut that off. I'm gonna have to change my plans because the pipe that was supposed to go through there is actually the exact same size as the labyrinth in there. So if I slide it in, I'll effectively just close that off. So got one or two options. I still am going to cut this out here so this thing can fit in there. I'll weld it in there, and then I'll still be able to use this stock screen, have it come through. Effectively this portion here, the labyrinth, is doing nothing, so I may end up cutting this back. We'll see. Okay, fully disassembled. Went ahead and pulled this guy out, ground him out, and then this guy is now cut, and so this guy will be able to go through there and fit. Now it's just time to cut this guy to length, get the right angle I want, and then weld it all back together. Okay, here's all the parts I'll be using for the new baffle. I'm going to weld that on. This piece here is the existing one. I'll weld that one on. I'll weld this guy on. And then here is the new piece that I cut. Well, here it is all welded up. We've utilized that back cap. You can see through the baffle now, see through the screen. You can see my new pipe inside there, and then re-welded everything back up. Those are the pieces that I removed from it to make that. Now we'll get some paint on it and try it out. Well, here it is painted up, painted with some high temp flat black paint. and we'll get it hooked up here and see what it sounds like. Okay, got it bolted up there. Looks pretty stock. Like the angle that it comes out. It does point down just a little bit, but rather than pointing down directly below, it actually points down and it comes out further out. So let's start it up and see what it sounds like. Yeah, I can feel the puffs way back here. Definitely louder than stock, but not as loud without the baffle. It's not bad at all. It almost sounds louder just at idle versus giving it some gas. So, there you go.